And the first episode, I think, is just going to be about getting in and out of the box. Here in the Netherlands, you have marinas. The marinas have a box. It's not a mooring ball. It's actually a what we call here a box. And that can be quite difficult to get in and out of, even with crew members at times. I would say my success rate of getting in the last 6 months has been like something like 50%. 50% of efforts just fail and I have to try again, or have to use ropes or whatever to get into the box in some other way. So I find it quite challenging, even with crew members, and I thought it'd be a good test if I could maneuver the boat out of the box and then back in again without any crew members, come out with a system that can be done single-handedly. So let's see how that goes. So this is what I'm thinking. If this is the boat, we have it moored off on 4 points, the 4 corners. So these are basically mooring poles, mooring posts. And I expect the wind to be coming from behind. Which should make it okay, I think. If it was coming from the side, it'd be a bit more difficult. Maybe on another day I'll try that. So I know from this situation that these front lines are not that important because we've got wind from behind pushing the boat forwards. We need to keep these back lines on as long as possible. We can get rid of these quite quickly. And in terms of single-handing, these back lines are what have me a bit worried, because I can throw one off, but I think if I throw one off and I'm not fast enough with the other one, the boat will turn. For example, if I throw this one off, the whole boat will turn like that, because only one corner will be held, and that will make it very difficult to back out. I have to back out here. This is the shore. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to solve that. I think I will put the boat in a sort of a stationary reverse, just to hold it in position while I undo this and this mooring line here, and then I will give it full power and try to back out. When I got to the boat, the wind was actually not where I'd anticipated. It was not coming from behind, it was coming a bit from the side as well, from the starboard side. So I had to change my plans a bit. So I pulled in the fenders, as you do when you're leaving a box, and then I decided to get rid of the port side mooring lines. So here I'm throwing off the front mooring line on the port side. These are the downwind mooring lines, so I'm leaving the starboard side because that's where the wind is coming from. So I've thrown off the back starboard side, and now I go forward, and I've got the motor in forward at this point a little bit just to hold the boat, and I release the starboard side forward. So now I've got one line left, the back starboard side. I put the motor in neutral and I quickly throw it off, and then I try to get out. Now the boat is nice and straight at this point, but it had moved too much to the starboard side. It had moved too upwind with the motor on, and you can see I'm going straight into the pole there. Have to fend off. And as I'm fending off, I actually move a bit too far forward, and it looks like here I probably hit the dock. I didn't actually realize that at the time, but it looks like from those images that I've hit the dock. And at this point you're quite happy you've got a steel boat to learn in. So after that I was able to sort of fend off the back, and it was pretty smooth sailing, just backing out reasonably straight and then starting to turn. as the boat is more out of the box. About halfway, about this point, I put the engine in neutral and just glide the rest of the way. Still turning, still got the tiller over like that to turn. You can see the post from the other side of the channel coming into view now, at least the shadows. And there's the post, so I get quite close. And then I swing quickly to the other steering position and put it in full forward. And that gives me a nice turn as we take off, and puts you right in the middle of the fairway. So not completely smooth by any means, but we got out. For coming back in, assuming the wind is the same, we have the shore here. We have our mooring posts, if you like. So I come in from the left here. So the boat starts over here, and basically I have to follow a circular path. And this is quite tricky actually. The distance between the poles is very narrow. I've only got about 30 centimeters of play on each side of the boat at most. I think maybe it's even less than that. And there's not a lot of distance to the other side of to the boats on the other side. So I've got this. The timing of this corner is really vital. I've many times overshot, gone into the wrong bay on the bay on the right. Sometimes I've undershot and ended up sort of diagonal, and sort of that's a bad situation because you can hit the boat on the next to you, the neighbour. So the timing of this circle is important, but that of course is the same whether you're single handing or with the crew. The only difference is that usually I put my wife or a kid on the front, and they can fend off if things are going bad. And in my case, if I'm single handing, that won't be an option. I don't think that would be very difficult. So I have to get this right. And if things do go wrong, I have to back out pretty quickly with the motor so that I don't hit anything. In terms of how this progresses, imagine that I do manage to nail it. Usually what I do with the crew is to come in here to about this position, so that the poles, because actually the boat tapers in at the back. It's an old boat, tapers in like most boats actually, but tapers in at the back, so there aren't really these corners that I've shown here. So the best place to actually lasso these poles is when you're not quite in. So I usually go to like say this is the cabin, maybe end of the cockpit, stop the boat at that point and then try to lasso it, and then lasso these back poles, and then I put it back in forward, and I try to basically get the situation where it moves in and is held in place by the back mooring lines, and that gives me, with the motor still running, it gives me time to go to the front and connect up the front ones. So that's the theory. We're going to see if this works in practice. This is how it's basically the same approach I always use with a crew. The difference is if things go wrong, I won't have a crew to help me out. So it's going to be all down to me and the motor, basically. So at this point I'm still outside the marina and I'm doing a bit of preparation, which I've read is very important when you're single handing. It's all about preparation. So I'm setting up my mooring line here in a big loop, and it goes underneath the rails at the back there, and then loops over the top of the rails back inboard. And the idea is I can use that to throw it over a post quickly when I come in. At the front I'm also setting up some lines, but these are just precautionary. The front I can handle slowly. The back ones are the important ones in this case. So here we are coming into the channel. I move right to the right hand side, to the starboard side. I'm about 1.5 to 2 meters from the boats there. The back can swing out a bit when you turn, so you need to leave a bit of room there. And now I'm looking at the berth, and I'm trying to judge where to start turning, and I'm looking basically trying to form a circle in my head that the mast will follow into the berth. You want to try to stick to a curve. And I didn't do it that well here, I must say. I flattened the curve out at various times, moved the tiller in a bit too straight. But I did actually get in, and I didn't damage the other boat or anything, so I guess that's a success, even if it wasn't perfect. Don't have a lot of room here, probably 20 centimeters on each side, something like that. At this point, I put the motor in reverse and stopped the boat, and this is where the back posts are quite close to the sides of my boat. Now I grab my big loop on the windward side, the starboard side, and I put that over the pole. And basically once that's done, there's a bit of a sigh of relief, because from that point, as long as you've got that line connected, you're reasonably safe. You can maneuver the boat in many different into the berth and straighten it up with the motor. So I've put both the lines on here at the back. The motor's moving any forward very slowly, putting in neutral again here, and just trying to get the boat into the berth now. As you can see, there is wind because it's pushed the boat to the port side. It's pushed it downwind. The boat is now at an angle. But as long as I've got this back mooring line attached, and I've got the motor in forward, I can bring the boat back up into the wind, pull it back up, which I'll show you in a minute. So at this point I'm just fixing up the port side line a bit. Afterwards I kind of regret doing that. I thought I should have just concentrated on the starboard side, which was the windward side. I should have just got that one line right. And you can see that I was fiddling around with it, not getting it very, very tight. I should have just left the port side one, forgotten about that, because it actually causes some problems a bit later as well, where it's too tight and it's stopping the boat from turning. So I really should have just concentrated on that starboard side line at the back, got that prepared, and then put the motor in forward to turn the boat, straighten up the boat. And at that point, leaving the motor running, you can see here, again messing around, but we are moving up a little bit. But the boat, you can see now that the motor is pulling the boat straight, and you can help it out a little bit by turning the tiller a little bit to turn the boat to starboard as well. You can see the motor really does. You have to give it quite a lot of engine, but it does pull it up eventually. So here it's pretty straight. It's just got the one line, the back line on the starboard side, and the motor full steam ahead basically. And at that point I can move forward and grab the other mooring lines, attach the windward one first, and then attach the port side leeward side. So that was reasonably successful, not perfect again, but I managed to get out, I got back in, and that was the goal of the exercise.